Cannabis quick hits. Grounding your plant.
Breeder in Nevada County who's crossed it back on itself and is making some interesting things that he's calling Harlequin. But the original
Why did you call it Harlequin?
I don't know if you remember that story I told you about giving ground to plants indoors.
Oh, you have to listen to this because this is like
right.
this is off the charts. This is this copper wire, right?
Well, I put a lot of effort into trying to figure out how to give plants. Indoor is really hard. I mean, and it's wrong. Excuse me. I'm just going to make a blunt statement. Indoor, the only reason to do indoor with cannabis is you have no other choice.
That's right. Then you do.
There's no other choice. That's the only. It's like growing corn indoors.
Or a tomato.
Or tomatoes. It's outdoors. This is where that plant came from.
It's a different creature when it's grown indoors.
Well, one of the things that shapes it is lighting and what kind of water you have access to and what sort of soil you choose to work in and all of those things. The plants are doing the heavy lifting. They're making these compounds that we love so much.
Exactly.
They're doing the hard work.
Right.
Our job is to make it as simple for them as possible.
Right.
Make everything ideal.
Right.
And
so we've gotten to the place where we feed the soil.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
and the soil feeds the plant.
outdoors is beautiful because you can really actually create soil and feed it and take advantage of what nature gives you.
Right.
Indoors, you have to recreate nature. You have to do that all the way through. And I finally got to a point with the plants I was working with where I'd done everything I knew to do about lighting and put some effort and money into that. Same with water, same with nutrients, same with soil,
ventilation.
Everything. Air, climate control, all of that. You got to do it right if you're going to do it
Testing the
indoor.
pH every day and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Meantime, I was still feeling like they weren't getting everything they needed. So I asked the plants, I meditate and sit with them and ask them what was going on. I said, you got the best lights, you got the best, everything is right, but it's not. What's going on? We're lonely. We're lonely. And I thought about that, and I realized that they evolved in the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
And ground, electricians can tell you all about ground. It's in a specific electrical frequency. And meantime, I was working on tables so that I wasn't having to bend over. I was working on tables, and they were, they were completely isolated from ground. So I got ground with some wire and
copper wire,
Romex. Put a grounding bar on copper pipe that I knew was good to ground, and gave 4 plants out of 7, and they happened to be Harlequin actually. Because that's where I was at.
We're talking alchemy here, dude.
Well, that was the name of the other cultivar. The other phenotype was alchemy.
Oh, it had a THC?
That's what I called it. Yeah, because it was pretty electric, but it was.
So what happened? Was it really different? The
alchemy?
growth?
No, the copper ground in the
copper
plants.
ground. Oh, Nikki.
Indoors, mind.
This is why I named it Harlequin. The 7 plants, there were 4 that got ground and 3 that didn't. Identical conditions. I like to experiment, And the 4. They stood out like a sore thumb. They were considerably bigger than the uniform canopy that I was working with usually. And they flowered. I used a period of darkness to trigger flowering quickly. And at 2 weeks, I was used to the indoor plants. For the most part, they would give you a pencil eraser-sized clump of flowers 2 weeks into flowering. Harlequin, part of what got my attention right off the bat, the earliest cuts of it that I flowered, they were more the size of my little finger, double the size of a pencil eraser. And the 4 that I gave ground, they were as big as my index fingernail at 2 weeks of flowering.
But see, these are plants that had come from Switzerland.
Yes.
High altitude.
Yes.
High latitude.
Probably in the ground.
Well, they probably did not
ground?
have the ideal environment indoors that they didn't have what they wanted, where they came from.
Right.
But the vitality of Harlequin, again, that's what really blew me away. I was just stunned at how quickly it flowered, how abundantly it grew. It flowered at 8 weeks. The trichomes were abundant, milky, and some gone amber already.
So I'm still not quite getting the Harlequin
flower
connection. Why the Harlequin?
Those 4 plants, unlike the uniform green that you're used to, and I cut off nutrients late in their flowering so that they yellow out. But these had red and purple and green and violet. I mean, just all
They were
this
Harlequin
incredible
color, multicolored.
Blessed be.
Yeah,
Harlequin
really.
is a character in the earliest known opera.
That's
It's an
right.
Italian opera, and one of the characters is the Harlequin. And his costume has all these colors. It's a vest.
I
he's
think
got
there's a
black
famous
hat.
Picasso painting of Harlequin.
And,
diamond.
and
like
it
that.
sort of suggests the jokester, and
Right,
part of it
exactly.
was, again, I had this plant, and I had a lot of them at this point, 7 of big ones ready for full flowering and mothers and all that, and meantime my patient group wasn't getting stoned.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be high in CBD,
Yeah,
and
right.
it turned out because there was so few live plant versions
Right,
of
right.
CBD plants, I thought this needs to be to as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So for years,
Yeah,
I
it wasn't
didn't
available.
do
We bred
it.
it out.
Our good friend, I don't know if I could name him.
Okay.
Anyway,
So